What's up, gamers? I'm Sam, here to answer the question, is getting a sim rig worth it? Sim rigs have become very popular and, dare I say, pretty cool to own, along with their owners being cool too, of course. A lot of this craze with gaining popularity with the sim rigs happened in 2020 when we were all locked down in our homes without a whole lot to do at all. It was weird, times were odd. But us car people especially started to go a little stir crazy when all the shows that we planned on going to or the track time we planned on putting in, it didn't happen because those things were canceled. I was super bummed when all this was going on, so I turned to video games to help get that craving of driving satisfied. Along with a whole bunch of you, a lot of us did this. Seriously, lobbies were absolutely popping during these times when you were online in your race sim rigs. We were all fat with our lockdown guts, sitting behind our monitors, getting lost in a different world. Times were a little weird, but it was a fun escape from reality. I've had a sim rig for a number of years now, and luckily I got it before parts started to get crazy expensive and bought up during those lockdowns, and then manufacturers couldn't keep up with the supply and the demand got higher. We went through some supply and demand stuff in my last video, but prices went crazy. But I'll set you guys straight. Real quick, my setup is seriously basic. I want you guys to know that so that when you hear me talking about the benefits, you know that I'm not out using some crazy super expensive rig, that I have a pretty basic setup. I've got an absolutely ancient Logitech G25 attached to a cheap Amazon metal rig setup with a no-name bucket seat. This is all hooked up to my PC and ran through a 32-inch monitor or a VR headset. It's super basic. If you want to see us do a sim night, maybe a lobby in Assetto Corsa or Forza, I'd be totally down. I know the other guys would be too. Drop a comment down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's make some fun stuff happen. So what is a sim rig? Let's start there, since this could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. On the crazy high end, up over here, there's the whole cockpit experience where the actual platform moves in reaction to what's happening in the game. Those are more expensive than a lot of the cars you and I both drive actually probably combined. Most people, like myself, have a wheel, pedal, and shifter setup bolted to a frame or chassis of some sort with a seat. This is kind of down here on that expensive level compared to up here. All of this is hooked up to either a PC if you're a part of the PC Master Race, or a console player if you're poor. Then you have the hyper-realistic graphics displayed on a monitor or on your VR headset. More on VR later. So, kind of talk about what a sim rig is. Why in the world would you want a sim rig? Well, if you ever try playing Gran Turismo or any simulation-like racing game with a controller, it's not the most amazing experience. Yes, it's fun, but when you really get into the driving, there's just something not there. I vividly remember being a much younger Sam and playing Gran Turismo on my PlayStation 1 with the DualShock analog controllers. It wasn't easy to give gradual throttle input or be gentle on the steering input coming into or out of a corner, because you kind of just had buttons to press. And yeah, you could use the analog stick as throttle, but I wasn't that advanced. A wheel and pedal setup alone makes the experience more realistic, since you can do a little more fine tuning with your inputs and also get some force feedback on the wheel to help you understand what's happening with the car as you go over rumble strips or whatever else the road surface is, and it's telling you what's happening with the car. Besides having better input, it's honestly a ton of fun, since it just feels more like driving an actual car. You're more involved having to actually steer, give throttle input, and clutch in for gear shifts. It's like you're actually driving a car, and just makes it more fun. You can also jump between a whole bunch of different driving styles with just one sim setup, and each will feel very different, from driving a Formula 1 car to flying through a dirt rally stage. You can even drive a big rig truck if you want and live out those open road fantasies, driving across the country to deliver products to a distant Walmart. Ain't that just the American dream? If it's a simulation, does it help you get better at actually driving? We're talking about a sim rig. Sim is short for simulation. I do get asked this once in a while with my setup. It honestly kind of depends on what you're doing and the games you're using. Some games are much more simulation-like than others. I love jumping into a Subaru STI and tearing through a forest in Finland on dirt rally, but I don't think that's really helped me become a rally racer. And when I drive like in the snow or on gravel, I don't think I've gotten much better. However, I play an absolute ton of Assetto Corsa with mods for drifting. I can say with confidence this has absolutely helped me get better while on the track. I still have an absolute ton of learning to do while in real life, but I'll take the small wins when I can get them from learning with the sim. You can't really simulate the exact G-forces, but the throttle and wheel control, along with understanding how weight transfer works, is 100% transferable from sim to real life. It's really pretty close, and you get the feeling for it. Here's another example. Dakota and Gels recently went to Laguna Seca and interviewed some actual race car drivers. These guys use racing sims to warm up before a race, learn when to refuel and pit for that strategy, and even use setups at home just for fun. There's no substitute for real seat time, but using a sim seriously helps. This is especially true when you live somewhere like we do here in Wisconsin, and you have an off season where the world is frozen over and you can't really drive your cars, so using a sim is something you can actually do. If you're feeling competitive, then iRacing could be your cup of tea. I used to do a lot of iRacing, and it's really fun since it's competitive, and they actually do a nice job putting you in lobbies that are grouped up with people of your similar skill set. There are people that absolutely ran me off the road. Some of those videos are hilarious, but the physics are pretty fantastic in that game as well. But we gotta talk about VR. VR is an absolute freaking game changer. I used VR for the first time this winter while on the sim, and it's the absolute best thing I've ever added to my setup. I spend the vast majority of my time doing drifting with mods on Assetto Corsa. VR gives you an uncanny sense of placement in the car and on the track. You also get actual depth perception with the ability to look at where you're going in relation to the car, and just feels natural. This is hard to describe, but absolutely mind-blowing in person. In my personal experience, I was able to be much more precise with my driving. I can put the car exactly where I wanted to using VR, and I can close that proximity when doing tandems online in Assetto Corsa. How about some downsides? This all sim thing sounds great, but there's gotta be some sort of downside, and there are a couple. The biggest downside is the cost for a sim setup. Prices for the components haven't come down a ton, but there are deals to be had out there. You also have a ton of different options at a wide array of prices. You can easily drop 10K for a crazy setup if you want. Realistically though, if you're probably going to look at a grand or two for sim setup, that'll be a pretty solid setup, plus the PC or the console that you're adding it to. Trust me, just get a PC and do it on PC. It's better. All of the console babies out there are going to tell you that consoles are easy and just no problem with it. You have much more flexibility with a sim when it comes to a PC because you can add mods to it, which more mimics the real thing. The second downside is that you could be sacrificing your actual car budget and actual seat time for a sim rig. The price to get into a sim rig could be the difference between some tires, mods, or repairs to get your car back on the track and you in that seat. It could even be the difference to a summer's worth of entry fees depending on how expensive you're looking and going with your sim rig. A sim rig is there for you to have fun with, but also get some practice if you're looking at it with that mentality. The virtual practice is good, but there's no substitute for the real thing. But is it worth it to get a sim rig? I believe it's totally worth it to get a sim rig. Cost is your biggest enemy, but you can piece together a rig over time and have a very respectable setup. A sim rig lets you have fun with the hobby of cars in ways you otherwise just couldn't do. You could be running the Touge in Japan with the Silvia, and then in the next 5 minutes, you could be tearing through Spa in a dedicated race car. It's just that fun part of it that keeps you involved in the hobby that's really exciting. It is fun, but practice is also real. At least for me, I can say that my sim rig has easily helped me become a better driver. I've been able to try some techniques and crash on the sim without having to total out a real car. I'm not alone in this feeling though. Just look at what Gran Turismo has done with their driver academy. Like always, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm Sam. Peace. What's up, bitch? Get a sim rig, it's worth it. Just do it.